Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and thank you so much for joining me on tonight's episode. Guys, I am pumped. I am excited and energized for today's episode, and I hope you are too. Lately, we have been creating so much fantastic and amazing content for you guys, and I genuinely think, I've always thought this about the podcast, but specifically lately, I have thought that we have been giving you guys real tips and real insider knowledge and tricks into how you can make digital marketing work for you, and just different ways in which I have found success, different ways in which really big companies have found success. And I think it's important that a podcast like this can give you that level of knowledge and the opportunity to have an in-depth conversation about what we're talking about, because so many podcasts, especially ones that I listen to for this one to research, they just scrape the surface. They do a lot of top 10 and then they give you the top 10, but they don't talk about each one. They don't go into that level of detail that I think and I hope you've been getting from the last couple of episodes. I love this podcast. I love doing this podcast. I love recording, editing, and researching for it. And if you love listening to it as much as I love recording it, which is a lot, then please like, review, subscribe, do all of the things that I ask you to do every week, because I want to build a community here, and I want to build an opportunity for everyone to have their questions answered, their opinions shared, and for everyone to actually gain something from this podcast. So if you have a comment, if you have a concern or a question or a business problem that you want us to highlight, or you really like this segment that I do, but you don't like this segment, I want to hear from you. And I think it's so important to hear from you. I listen to this podcast called the Content Creators Podcast, something along those lines. And the two girls who host it, I've talked about them before. They're micro-influencers here in Seattle, and they're so great about responding and including people in their podcast. And guys, that is what I want to do here. So if you have a comment, if you have a question, or you have an idea you want to share with the group, this is the group to share it with. So I encourage you to please like, comment, review, and reach out, because I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm listening. On tonight's episode, we will be talking about reusable content. So, like I said, over the last couple of episodes, we have been talking a lot about content creation and giving you sort of insider knowledge on how you can be creating content while you have all of this time on your hands because of the coronavirus. And although things are starting to open up, although things are starting to look better and there's more positivity out there, there definitely is a lot of things going on right now, and we don't want to pretend that there's not by any means. But because a lot of things are going on in the world right now, we want to be able to give you the opportunity to create content while you're waiting for things to go back to normal and while you're stuck at home. And guys, I got to tell you, I have gotten into such a good rhythm being able to create content for you for this podcast. I record all of these episodes a week in advance now. I'm ahead of the game. I'm able to research and look into things because I've found myself in a good rhythm and into a good groove. So on today's podcast, we'll be talking about how all of that content we've been creating over the past little while can actually be reused and repurposed into new content. So we're going to be talking about blogs, testimonials, photos, videos, infographics, blogs, live streams, and tweets. So that is 8 different types of content that I am going to show you 8 different ways, more than 8 different ways even, of how you can take that content and turn it into something completely new without having to spend any more money. You're going to have to spend some more time because every type of content takes time. That's just a resource you have to get ready to deal with. But I'm going to show you how you can shoot one video and get a month's worth of content out of it. So all of that and more on tonight's episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Again, I am your host, Mackenzie Jaquish. Please reach out to me. You can follow me on my own social media, Mackenzie_Jaquish. That is Jaquish. I follow the GSMC Marketing Podcast. So if you want to find me, that is a very easy way to do it. If you have a question, you want to share something, you want to talk about something, you want to be on the show, I encourage you to reach out and we will go from there. But for now, let's go ahead and jump right into today's episode with our first bit of content, which is a blog. Now, let's for a second here talk about what a blog is. Because, of course, you know, this is one of the easiest forms of content. This is something that started the revolution of content creators, right? Before there were YouTubers, before there was influencers and micro-influencers, there were blogs and there were bloggers. It was a trend that started happening is the best way to put it. I keep trying to find the right words to describe really how blogs took over. But in the early 2000s, they were the hottest thing. If you had a project you were working on, you started a blog. And eventually what started happening was blogs turned into videos, and videos turned into vlogs, and bloggers turned into influencers, and that is where we are at now. But you see a lot of very big influencers right now, like Blogilates, who is like the #1 exercise tutorial place on YouTube. She started out with a blog. Or you see Rachel Hollis, who is like the #1 motivational speaker in the country, started out with a blog. And so it's very fascinating to see this type of content, which doesn't seem like it should still fit into our world now, still be so incredibly popular. So basically a blog is exactly what it sounds like. Everyone knows, everyone listening to this knows what a freaking blog is. You are writing down in a article type fashion, but it's more casual than an article, whatever your topic may be. You can do recipes, how-to, history of, DIY, explanation blogs, a day in my life blog, just your product blog, whatever you need to do. You can write very, very long blogs about it, and people, especially of a certain age demographic, will respond to that because they are actually getting value from it. Now, here's the problem. I'm going to lay out the problem for you. For each of these, I'll always lay out the problem. It takes forever to write a good blog. Guys, I have a freaking journalism degree, and it can take hours to write a blog that you know is going to be captivating enough for someone to read all of it. It is going to give them value so that if they do read all of it, they're not like, oh geez, why did I read that? I'm never coming here again. And 3, you need to make it actually look good. There's this third element of the design of I need to include photos and pull quotes, and I need to research things. There's all this work that people don't actually see happening that you need to do. So if you are going to write a blog, you're going to spend hours and hours and hours writing it and editing it and reviewing it and researching it. And then you're going to post it. You'll post it on Instagram that you wrote it. And people will read it. People will read it without a doubt. People will read your blog. People read my blog in middle school when I was talking about the boy across the street that liked me. People want to read blogs. So if you're giving them valuable information, they will continue to read your blog. But here's the thing. You just spent an entire day writing this blog when you could have been creating all this other content. And you can only write that blog once. You can't post it again and say you wrote a new blog. So what are you going to do? Number 1, you can turn it into a micro blog for your Instagram post. So we talked about this on another episode, but it's something I want to stress because it's something that people are doing right now that I really, really think could benefit a lot of you. So no longer are people really liking or engaging with those short, snippy captions. You need a long caption, and a long caption that isn't just rambling on and on about your day. That long caption needs to be a microblog. So what you can do is take your long blog that you wrote, break it down into a microblog, and then post it on Instagram, and boom, you can probably get 4 or 5 microblogs out of your one long original blog. Number 2, you can turn it into an infographic. So you took all that time researching and studying and reviewing all the information you were going to put into your blog. And a lot of people aren't going to read it because, blah, boring. They don't want to read. They just want to look at pretty photos. So guess what? Turn it into a pretty photo. You have all the information. There are apps that will help you turn it into an infographic. And then all those people you missed who didn't want to read a blog, they're going to be coming back because they're fine to look at a photo. I'm talking to the lazy people here. You know who you are. Finally, number 3, you can turn your blog into some pull quotes. Now, the pull quote post is something I only recommend posting once a week. Otherwise, it will fill up your feed and people will just hate you. It'll look boring on your feed. So once a week, you can post a quote of, it has to be something that really, really stands out for your audience and is specific to them and specific to your product. Another thing you can do that we'll put as like 3.5 is tweets. Turn your blog into a series of tweets and have them all connected and intertwining. So really what we're getting at here, guys, is you spend an entire day researching, writing, editing, and reviewing this blog. You are now going to take all of that information, turn it into a microblog for about 5 different Instagram posts. You're then going to turn it into an infographic so that you can reach all of the people who didn't want to read the blog. And then you're going to turn it into a series of tweets and or pull quotes for your feed, for your social media. So there you have it. We took 1 day of work and I just gave you like a month's worth of content, if not more. So I hope you're writing that down. Don't worry though, because when we come back, we will review it again. So please stay tuned. We will be talking about more types of content and how you can reuse that content coming up on the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you again and again, black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and on tonight's episode, we are reducing, reusing, and recycling our content. Guys, this podcast, the main purpose, for me at least, for this podcast, is to give you guys the tools you need to go out there and create excellent, amazing, fantastic content for your marketing. We are all in such a tough position right now where it seems like our marketing is stuck in a rut because the world is stuck in a rut. Guys, I record all of these podcasts one day. I just sit down and I record them all. Why am I able to do that? Why am I, a 24-year-old girl living in a big city, able to spend an entire Saturday recording 3 podcasts? That is like my entire day. That is hours on hours of work. Why am I able to do that? because nothing else is going on right now. Everything is closed. Everything is shut down. But something that doesn't have to be shut down, something that doesn't have to close, is your marketing. So over the past couple of episodes, I have really been trying to focus in on the idea of content creation. And I understand that although it is the fun part of our job, although it is the creative aspect of our job, and it is the thing that attracts so many people to this career, I understand that it can be hard. That you can wake up in the morning and not want to post on Instagram. You can wake up in the morning and not want to have to write a blog. So the point of today's episode, the point of every episode really, is to give you the tools and the ability so that when you're having those days that you wake up and you're like, you know what, Mackenzie? I don't want to post on Instagram. I don't want to create a video. I don't look good today. I don't want to be in the video. I don't want to take photos. I don't want to live stream. The point of all the episodes is to provide you with a backup for when you don't want to do that. We talk about content planning and scheduling ahead of time so that when you run into a rut, when you get stuck, you can dig up these posts and say, here, use them. The point of today's episode is to be able to, when you hit the rut and you're out of your backup plans, you have nowhere to go, you can take a look at what you've already created, what you've already spent the money, the time, the energy, the resources on, and repurpose it into new content. And you're going to end up feeling so fantastic, so good after all of that you are going to be energized again to create more content. You'll probably go take a nap because as you just described to me, or as I just described to you, on a day like today where you're feeling stuck, you just need a break. We are taking your content today and we're going to make it look like you don't need a break, but you're going to get a break from it. So please, if you enjoy episodes like today's, if you enjoy episodes like earlier in the week where we talked about the coffee industry, or we have done podcast episodes on the marketing of Barbie and Starbucks and Netflix and Disney, if you like those episodes, if you like these episodes, if you hate these episodes and you would prefer me to talk about Barbie and Netflix, then please, I have to know. I need your guys' feedback. And if you want proof, if you need proof that I listen to your guys' complaints and your queries, then guess what? Listen to this episode. Listen to the episodes I did earlier this morning, but you will have heard earlier this week, where we did not talk about the news. And we didn't talk about the news in the marketing world because I received feedback from you guys that you just wanted to focus on marketing and marketing content for your company. So I took that segment out. I also used to spend a lot of time talking about stats and facts and figures and numbers, but some people didn't like that. And those people wrote in and said, hey, Mackenzie, this will be helpful. So if you have something that you know would be more helpful to you, and you're like, hey, I listen to this girl talk about marketing 3 times a week, and I need her to talk about things that are actually going to help me, then there's only one way for me to do that. You got to reach out. You got to message me. So please do that. Reach out through social media. I follow all of GSMC. You should too. Follow me, follow them. I'm going to see it either way. Reach out and tell me what you want because I want to give you what you want. Because it's the only way this podcast will be successful for everyone. So let's continue on with today's episode. We are talking about 8 different types of content, and I'm giving you different ways you can repurpose that content. So the first 5 we'll be talking about will be multiple different ways you can reuse the content. I'm giving you strategies that will take a little bit of your time, no more of your money, and no more of your resources, but it will take time. Then we're going to do a bit of a lightning round where I give you a bunch that are quick turnovers that you could do in a matter of minutes for those days that you're not feeling like producing content. So get your pen and paper out, guys, because we're jumping right back in. Number 2, testimonials. So let me lay out the perfect ideal for you guys. You own a cake shop. Now again, I like to use things as examples. If you're new here, I like to use examples of products that I think anyone can relate to. So you could sell coffee or soap or towels, but we're going to use a bake shop. So you own a bake shop where you make custom cakes. And you've had the same customer come in for every birthday, anniversary, wedding, and funeral that they've had. They've come in and requested a cake. So finally, after you've seen them for the 500th time, you pull them aside and you say, hey, can I film a testimonial of you giving your review of the restaurant? And they say yes. They love being in front of the camera, and they are willing to give you an hour of their time and their permission to be on your social media, your website, and your product. They're willing to be that voice for you. So you are going to get all your equipment together. You're going to get good audio. You're going to get a good mic. You're going to listen to my podcast about how to shoot video. And you're going to shoot the longest interview possible. If they give you an hour, you take the full hour. You ask every question you could possibly think of. And then you take that video and you can turn it into, if you get 1 hour, you can turn that into like 15 different clips. If you get 10 minutes, you can turn that into like 3 different clips. So never just post one long testimonial. Nobody wants to watch someone talk about your cake company for an hour. Instead, turn it into multiple different clips. But eventually what's going to happen is you will have posted all 10 videos and you'll be like, okay, now I need to get another customer. And none of my other customers really seem to want to give a testimonial, but those really seemed to boost sales. What do I do now? The first thing you can turn it into, and I'm going to throw this term out there, and it's not going to make sense at first, but bear with me, is you can turn it into a lyric video. So we've all seen the Taylor Swift "Look What You Made Me Do Now" lyric video, and that is the perfect example. Basically, I feel like you already got the idea, but while the person is talking, you're not going to show the video of them talking. Instead, you're going to have the words that they are saying pop up onto the screen in a visually dynamic way. It is going to be so engaging. Even though it's just words, people are going to want to sit and listen. Now, the great part about this is that people who are on your social media who don't have headphones in get to enjoy the video without having to hear the person talk. They still get to listen to all of that information and absorb it all without having to turn their headphones on, which is a huge deal for a lot of customers. Number 2, it also looks really great. It looks really cool, and people tend to really love it. The second thing you can do is take pull quotes. I already talked about pull quotes before, but really it is a quick way to turn around content. Take little things that they said in the video, turn it into pull quotes, put it in your next blog. The next thing you can do is come up with an image that has their main point of their testimonial. If the main point of their testimonial was that you have great customer service, then put it on this beautifully designed image that says, Randy from Kirkland loves our customer service, and then have the photo of Randy and have an exact quote. And you guys can create 20 of these. If you have an hour-long segment, you can just continuously bring Randy up without having to show that video every single time. Because as soon as you post to the video once, you cannot post to that video again. I'm going to go ahead and say it for a year. And then you can post it again. If you post it before that, people are going to be like, hey, we've seen this. We know. Like, what, are you paying Randy or something? Why do you keep posting this so much? They're going to get suspicious. We don't want people to get suspicious. So turn that video, turn that testimonial into the lyric video, the designed image, the pull quotes, so that you can really, really use all of your resources and use that information to create quality content. Okay, guys, the next one is photos. And photos is definitely a tricky one because it's very similar to the testimonials, that it takes a lot of time, effort, and energy to get one good photo. And then you post it and you can't use it again. You can't keep posting the same video of the same cake from your cake shop every single week. Instead, what I want you to do is take that photo and you're going to do some Ken Burns stuff to it, all right? So some Ken Burns, you got two different options. If you have a collection of photos, you can have them move into each other and have them fade in and fade out and pan in and pan out. And there are tons and tons of instructional videos you can look at online that'll show you how to do the Ken Burns effect easily. The other thing to do if you only have one photo is to post the photo and then have something moving on the photo. So if you're going to have a big sale on Saturday, post the photo of your cake and then do some video editing. Again, very easy. You can do it on your phone of 10% off all cakes Monday to Friday. Have that bouncing around on the photo. It's just another way to draw people in. People aren't going to really recognize that you've already posted that photo before, and it was a good photo, so keep using it. The other use for your photo is to turn it into, like I said before, with the testimonials, your lyric video. So when you're making your lyric video, you're going to want to have a photo in the background. Use your photos that you've already taken and you've already posted in the background because they represent your brand, and it's a great way to reuse photos. Number 3, collages. Guys, collages are huge right now. I don't even know if I can tell you why. But go onto Pinterest and type in like blue aesthetic and you're going to get a bunch of collages of like different blue things that people are posting together. So if you have a bunch of photos that really go well together, turn it into a collage and then you can post it again and again and again and again. You can just rearrange the collage. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take another break from the podcast, but when we come back, we have some more content reusable solutions for you. So stay tuned for that because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and let me ask you a question. How did you find this podcast? Did you find us through the GSMC Podcast Network? If no, if you found it because you were looking for a marketing podcast and you stumbled upon it, or you follow us on social media and you're deciding to give us a listen, then 1, welcome, thank you, glad to have you, please subscribe. But 2, I would love to encourage you to check out the GSMC Podcast Network. Guys, I've said it once, I've said it twice, but guess what? I'm saying it again. We have podcasts on literally everything you could imagine. We have books, sports, wrestling, beauty, tech. Every podcast you could ever want is on the GSMC Podcast Network. And let me tell you something. I work hard on this podcast. I put time, effort, and energy into every single episode you guys listen to. And I'm not alone. every host, every producer, every behind the scenes person you don't get to see is working so hard to create the best possible content for you. So if you're looking for a new podcast, if you're bored during the coronavirus, which let's face it, we all are, then please go check out the GSMC Podcast Network and then come back and tell me which podcast you have been listening to other than this one. And let me know if I should give it a listen. I try to listen to every single podcast because I love them all so much. I know the hosts. I think they're all really great. Right now, I've really been loving the book podcast. I think it's great because I love books. If you're a literary lover like I am, then you'll love it too. Let me know, though, what you're listening to and what I should check out because I would love to hear your recommendations. All right, everyone, let's jump back into today's episode where we are talking about different types of content you can create and then reuse. All right, so number 4, video. Guys, we talked about testimonials before and how long and time consuming it can be to create a testimonial. Now, picture if you didn't just have to sit down with your person, aim a camera at them, and ask them questions, and then it was a simple snip editing. Say you decided to take the money, the time, the energy, and the resources to create a video for your company. And this video included multiple different people, multiple different sets and props and video angles and cameras and lighting people and endless amounts of money got thrown into this video, and then you post it once. What do you do now with all of that time, all of that energy that you put into that video? Number 1, it's pretty lazy, and you're not even going to believe I'm suggesting it because it's so freaking easy. You're going to take screenshots of that video and turn it into photos and then just post them on Instagram as you normally would. Or use the photos in your blogs. Or if you're trying to write the microblogs we were talking about earlier, use these photos to go with them. Guys, if you have a good camera person, it is so incredibly easy to get good angles in your video and then be like, oh, I wish we had had a camera person there to also capture that moment in film. Just take a screenshot of it. If you're on a Mac, it's Command-Shift-4. If you're on a PC, the snipping tool. Guys, so easy, so simple. It's going to take 2 seconds and then you have your photos. Done. Easy. Clean your hands. You're good. Number 2, I'm going to go ahead and guess. If you created the video, you also did some research on that video. You took time to create the script and research the idea and take time to really consider what the story was behind the video. Take all that information, because I know you have it written down somewhere, and turn it into a blog. And then you can turn the blog into the microblog. And do you see how we're really reducing, reusing, and recycling here, guys? It's a circle. Everything's a circle. You do one thing, it'll turn into another. I guarantee it. All right. The third thing you can do with your video is to turn it into an infographic. And the infographic is by far going to be your biggest transition period between the video to that type of content, because you're going to have to really go through your script, go through your video, take pieces out that you think would work well in the infographic, and then lay it all out nicely. So this definitely isn't an easy turnaround. But what I want to remind you guys is the first couple of ones we're talking about, the 5, we got one more. None of them are supposed to be the quick and dirty ones. Yes, taking a screenshot of your video is very quick and dirty. But there are so many different things you can do with your videos, and I just gave you 3 of them. But get creative, because you spend time, money, and energy into creating that video. And I think the best thing you can do is get all of the content you can out of it. If it's a 10-minute long video, cut it in half and create 2 videos out of 1. Put a to be continued in the middle. Put the video in reverse and see if you can do it that way. Honestly, if you do own a cake shop or any sort of food shop, I would love to see a video of how you created the cake, but then do it in reverse, like the cake getting deconstructed. Oh my goodness. If anyone actually owns a cake shop, that is a great idea. Like, write that down. I'm going to open up a cake shop just so I can do that. That is an excellent idea. And you can do it with coffee, with soap, with towels. If you have your product, show it how you make it in reverse from finish to start. I love it. I'm writing it down. I think that's a great idea. Okay. Now that I'm done praising myself on that idea, I apologize. Let's move on to the fifth type of content, which is infographics. I've talked a lot about them in ways you can take the content you've already created and turn it into an infographic. But now you've taken time and energy from your video and your photos and your blogs to turn into an infographic, and it's been 2 months and you can't post the infographic again. You definitely can't post the video again. What do you do? All right, well, let's reverse engineer this. That infographic can be turned into a live Q&A session. So show people the infographic and then say, hey, do you have questions about this topic? Do you have questions about this idea we're discussing in the infographic? If you do, ask them in our live Q&A. Come over here. We're going to be discussing it. Meet us here at 5 o'clock. The second thing you can do, again, reverse engineering. I know you took time and energy and effort to turn all of that information in the infographic into the infographic itself. It took time. It took energy. Take it and turn it into a blog. Warning, this only works if you didn't get the information from the infographic from a blog originally, unless you have a way to spin it. If you have a way to spin it, terrific, do it, you got it. Same with tip number 3 or content type number 3, a video. If you didn't take this infographic from a video, or you have found a new way to create a video with the same information, then go ahead and do it. Just make sure you are not constantly giving them the information in the exact same way. Okay, everyone. Now I have a couple quick turnarounds for you of just different types of content that is going to be more of you're not going to get a lot more use out of them, but we're going to give you some quick and dirty ways to turn it around. These are for the days that you're really feeling stuck. You're really feeling like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to create. I don't know where to go next with this. What should I do? So we're going to have 3 of them here. If you have any questions, if you have any comments about any of them, please reach out and let me know. All right. So number 6, vlogs. You spend time doing a vlog, carrying around the camera with you all day, and nobody watched it. Cut it up and upload it onto Instagram stories. It's the same format, guys. It is the same thing people are doing. You're updating people about your live and what you're doing, so post it on Instagram stories. Number 7, a live stream. So you took the time from your infographic to do a live Q&A, and you answered questions, and you know your entire audience wasn't there. What I want you to do, for every Q&A that you ever do, or every live stream you ever do, make sure you are recording it, or you have someone on the other end recording it. This way, for a day that you're stuck and you don't want to create new content, you can post the video as a video and be like, hey, we did this live Q&A. Don't know if you missed it. Check it out. Our final one is that you can turn your tweets into pull quotes to then post on Instagram, to post on your website, to turn into a blog, to turn into new tweets, to post it on Facebook, whatever you want to do. You may think that tweets are a one-time hit wonder, but they're not. You are able to repurpose that content into so many different avenues. Okay, everyone, that is it for tonight's episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app, and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.